Hey, First Things First listeners, before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Ooh, we got the little holiday open. Feels good. It feels festive. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard in for Brandon. A little under the weather today. Kevin Wildes is here, and we are setting ourselves up for a Kevin Wildes weekend of football to discuss. Yes, Nick Wright.
Oh, I didn't know we were setting ourselves up for a Kevin Wildes weekend. But while my camera gets adjusted, I just want to say to America, once again, what do we do on this show, Jenna? We give out winners over Thursday Night Football. Pay everyone our money. Just giving out winners.
Oh, there it
Just
is.
giving out gambling winners. That's all we do. I know Fox Bet Live thinks that's their corner. No. That's the First Things First corner. We don't give out a lot, but they're all winners, Jenna. That's what we do. That's all.
Broussard, I'm sorry you had to sit and hear all of that. Because you're here, let us wait on that winner. Let us get right to basketball. We got to start this morning with James Harden again, because as of this morning, he is still a Houston Rocket. Yesterday it was reported that the Sixers made Ben Simmons available in some trade packages. So let's go. Let's make a deal, Monty Hall. But literally an hour after that report, this from Sixers president Daryl Morey, quote, "We are not trading Ben Simmons. He is an important part of our future." Chris Broussard, what do you think? Sixers making a big mistake not including Ben Simmons in a deal for Harden?
Look, I totally get the idea of wanting to see Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together under a new coach outside of Brett Brown, especially a championship coach like Doc Rivers. In fact, I have been saying that over a year ago that should be the Sixers' plan. However, if James Harden is available, that has to change. I'm sorry, it is about winning now. This is more and more becoming a win-now league. And as good as Ben Simmons is, to think that you're going to win a championship with a guy that not only can't shoot, but won't shoot. And it's been 3 years now, and he has made minuscule progress in terms of his willingness to take jump shots. 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, that would have been fine. But now, your primary ball handler, I don't think he can be a guy that won't take jump shots. Milwaukee learns that every postseason with Giannis. And Giannis is light years ahead of Ben Simmons when it comes to taking and making jump shots. So James Harden and Joel Embiid give you a chance, a legitimate chance to win the Eastern Conference Championship and maybe more. Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, nice team, very good, but not an Eastern Conference favorite. So I got to be honest, as much as I like Simmons and would love to see him under Doc Rivers with Embiid, I would pull the trigger.
Oh.
So here's what I want to say about Daryl and then about the Sixers. And full disclosure, I really like Daryl, not just as a GM, as a guy. I consider Daryl not a close personal friend. And I'm now going to look into the camera and say this. My close personal friend, Daryl Morey, has a problem. And the problem is a lying problem. He's not always an honest fella when it comes to what he may or may not do with his team. So when he says, I talked to Daryl a week ago yesterday. And I asked him, I was like, listen, are you just going to make this, are you going to make this trade or not? And you know what he said to me? we're not trading Ben Simmons. And you know what I said to him? I think you might be lying to me, Daryl. And he said, I'm not lying to you, Nick. And I said, guess what? You're my pal. I don't really believe you. Now, I do believe he is not dead set on trading Ben Simmons. And this is why I like the Sixers' position so much. And while we're not doing our NBA season preview predictions today, when we do them, I very well might have the Sixers winning the Eastern Conference because Wilds, I think they have something of a free roll. I think they can start this season and say, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid as our starters, some legitimate depth on the bench. Dwight Howard, obviously, Thibault, Korkmaz. There's an important player I'm leaving out. But regardless, I think they go 9, maybe 10 deep. I think all of, Shake Milton, pardon me. I think all of that, they can say, hey, under Doc Rivers, let's see how it looks. And guess what? If it doesn't look good, they know they can present the best package for Harden. So you try it out, you see if it works, and if it's working, great. And if not, you're going to add an MVP candidate. To me, that's a no-lose situation for the Sixers unless the Rockets call you and say, we're trading Harden today to somebody else unless you put Simmons in the deal, and I don't think that's happening. So I don't necessarily believe Daryl entirely, but I think the Sixers are in a great position.
So there's two ways to look at Daryl's quotes. One, the most optimistic one is like, it's like a fisherman's fib. It's like, how big was the fish? It's like, it was this big and was actually that big. The most pessimistic version is like, you're just straight up lying. And fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Because when Daryl traded Chris Paul back to the Thunder, he wasn't around the Thunder beginning, but when he traded him to the Thunder, Chris Paul's like, what gives? You told me last week that I wasn't being traded. And he told Mark Spears of the Undefeated, hey, my initial reaction, I was shocked. Truth be told, just talk to the guy. Said I wasn't going to be traded. That's funny because it's going to be the headline. That's just the way it is. So Broussard, I think that he's eroding trust. If he ends up trading Ben Simmons for Harden after vociferously saying I'm not trading him, and Broussard, we haven't even brought up, out of the kindness of Nick's heart, but he also told Nick that he was going to do live games on Twitch. That's another lie. Yeah, so between these two things,
he did tell me that.
If I was on the Sixers, I'd be like,
tell me that.
I don't know. This guy just got here. I don't know if I can take his word for, word is bond.
No, that's absolutely right. But here's the thing. To Nick's point, if the Sixers start the season with Embiid and Simmons, and it's just not working, I mean, they're pretty good, but not looking like a contender, then you can easily make that trade for Harden, and nobody will say, wait, hey, you said you wouldn't trade Simmons. You can say it wasn't working out.
I will.
Because there are a lot of people in Philly that think that Simmons and Embiid, while they're cordial, they get along, there's this inner competition between them that might keep them from working together, maximizing each other's ability, because each of them wants it to be their team. Each of them wants to be the superstar. You bring in Harden, he's 31 years old. He's kind of a different generation. That's an overstatement, but you know what I mean, than Joel Embiid.
Yep.
And NBA so it could be more big brother. Yeah, big brother, little brother. Here's the other thing. How a lot of people are worried about how long Embiid is going to be an elite level player. He is injury prone. We know that. He's never played more than 64 games. Do I have more than 4 years of Joel Embiid at this level left? I get, Nick, you are absolutely right in that ideally I would want to see Simmons and Embiid together at least up until the trade deadline, if not for the whole year. However, Harden might be gone by then. That's the problem. If he's gone by then and you never get a chance to get him, then you're in trouble.
I don't think Rafael Stone, the GM of the Rockets, is going to, who obviously came up under Daryl, is going to trade James Harden without making one last phone call to Philly, unless all of a sudden there is a package that heretofore we had not heard about that has a player involved better than Ben Simmons. But he's not all of a sudden, if Danny Ainge decides to ever actually try to win a championship post Kevin Garnett, it's like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and picks.
He's great.
He's not going to accept that trade without seeing, is Ben Simmons available? So I think Daryl, and again, this part is speculation. This is not from talking to Daryl at all. I think he knows he's not going to wake up to a Woj bomb. Harden's been traded to Sacramento for Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and a bunch of picks. Like, God dog it, I'd have given you Ben Simmons. I think he's going to almost get right of last refusal, or first refusal, last refusal. You guys know what I mean. Yeah. And because of that, I think he can bide his time somewhat.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yep. Also, I'm taking Daryl Morey's side. What did you want the guy to say? He had to answer at that point. Just in case the deal doesn't get done, let Ben feel like he belongs there in Philly. Tough night for John Gruden as we take a turn for a couple of reasons. What is going on with the Raiders? Asked and answered next. First things first.
What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
Raiders and Chargers from last night. Chargers rookie Justin Herbert having himself a season. He looked great again. His quarterback sneak in overtime helped the Chargers win. The Raiders, however, their woes continue. They lost Derek Carr early on, replaced by Marcus Mariota. It was nice to see him in there. He looked good. He didn't look good enough. Raiders lose again. It's 4 of 5 now in the loss column for them, with their playoff hopes all but dead. Coach Eric Mangini is joining the conversation this morning. Good to have you, Coach. Good morning. But, Nick, I want to start with you. This Raiders team started 6-3. They beat your Chiefs. They were rolling. What happened? How did this team fall apart?
I'll answer that in 1 second. Just very quickly, I'm happy for Marcus Mariota. He got a chance. I thought he played well. I think he maybe gets an opportunity to compete for a starting quarterback job. It's a guy who's always conducted himself well in this league and obviously didn't work out in Tennessee, so I'm happy for him. Now, to the Raiders. Nobody likes somebody to say, I told you so, but I told you so. Everyone's like, oh, Nick Wright's such a hater. Oh, after they lost to the Chiefs, I came on TV and everyone's congratulating the Raiders. Oh, they're dangerous. Oh, they're scary. Oh, they've given the Chiefs trust. They beat them once, almost beat them a second time. And what I tell you, they're going to be the best team to miss the playoffs. I might be wrong about that. Not even sure they're better than the Vikings. So, you know what? They're going to be one of the best teams to miss the playoffs. Coach, they have a fancy new stadium in Vegas. They haven't been able to have fans there. Next year when fans show up, do you think they'll have one banner for beating the Chiefs or two banners for beating the Chiefs and almost beating the Chiefs a second time, as those are the two best moments of the Gruden era? I'm not sure, because this team has been terrible since they played the Chiefs a second time. Some would say the Chiefs kind of stole their soul. I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. But I know this. Their defense stinks. Their quarterback's okay. And John Gruden falls apart in the second half of seasons. These are things I know. And some of us saw it coming. Other people thought it would be a hater. So that's what happened to the Raiders. And do I take joy in the Raiders' failures? Yeah, I do, actually, quite a bit. Where's that victory lap now? How about that? Where's your victory lap now, Raiders? Remember that moment of Arrowhead? Yeah, where's the victory lap? How about that? Yeah, victory lap.
You know, there's so much to unpack from the lead into this segment. I want to give a shout out to Ambrose. I hope he's watching. I don't know how he feels right now. And the idea that people call Nick a hater, that's right on. I don't know what's wrong about calling Nick a hater. And then Wild saying that Nick's never wrong. I'm thinking, what show have I been watching all year? But all that being said,
that's enough.
To get back to the Raiders. Look, I'm a little frustrated with where they are as well. I picked them to be the team that emerged from where they were last year. And they did have the late season collapse. They were 6-4 last year. Couldn't put it together. And really, they've lost 4 out of the last 5. But they probably shouldn't have beaten the Jets. I mean, it really should be 5 in a row. And when you look at what happened with John and the old adage, to whom much is given, much is expected, he gets an unprecedented contract. He gets unprecedented control, and expectations are through the roof. He comes in, he's completely made over the team. I think there's 6 players somewhere around there that have been on that were on the team when he got there. But all that being said, doing an overhaul takes time, and I know nobody wants to wait, and nobody wants to see things not materialize immediately, but it does take time, and he stripped this thing to the studs and has put it back together. And I'd say the one place that he hasn't made a change that maybe he wants to, and there's been a lot of indication that there is a desire to make a change, is at quarterback. You know, he gushed over Marcus Mariota when he brought him in, and now he's getting a chance to see where he is, and maybe that's the next step in the makeover. Is this disappointing? Yeah, it's disappointing. Is this an unprecedented year with COVID? Is it an unprecedented year with moving the organization? Is it an unprecedented year with the volume of injuries that they've had? I'd say all those things play a part in this, and it's disappointing, but there are elements that go into this that are a little bit out of their control.
Coach, do you think there's any credence to the fact that the Raiders are sort of an emotional roller coaster? Where do you go? No, that's a no. That's a strong no when you're just like, I'm out of here. I'm not. You know what?
I'm going to grab a drink.
Obviously not, dude. I'm going to go get a drink while you blab.
If Ambrose had texted me.
Pass along my number, please.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Wes.
So they beat the Chiefs, did the lap around the stadium. They also beat the Saints. And then they lose to the Falcons, they lose to the Chargers. Not in that order, but, you know, those were their highs and lows. So it's not like the team isn't good enough to beat these great teams, but it feels like they get up for games and then just disappear for games. So how much of it is tactical and how much of it is emotional?
I don't think it's all a function of getting up and not getting up. They have had a significant amount of injuries to starting players. And I don't have the numbers in terms of missed time from starters, but it's been a big number. I would say the most surprising thing that's happened is making the change at the defensive coordinator spot. When you have to change a coordinator, that's problematic. When you feel like you have to change the coordinator during the course of the season, to me that's even more problematic, and it's indicative of I don't know if it's panic. I've never been a big believer in that. I don't know if it's thinking that that's going to add some shot in the arm or some sort of boost that'll propel them through the end of the season. But that to me is the most surprising part of this. You're saying, hey, our personnel is good enough. The injuries don't matter. It's the play calling defensively that's been an issue.
Well, to me, my biggest concern if I were a Raider fan, and thank God I'm not, would be that after the Chiefs game, you got annihilated. And then you escaped against the Jets. That Jets game could have been the de facto end of your season. And you had an opportunity then to be like, guys, we got to get it back together. We got to get back to the team we were at the beginning of the year, even dealing with the injuries. And then since then, you gave up 40-some points to Indy, and you just lost to the Chargers. And the problem is, and we can show it quickly, and Coach said it, it's 2 years in a row now. 2 years in a row, they're 6-4 through 10 games feeling good, and then just a collapse. Just an utter and total collapse at the end of the year where their offense starts scoring a touchdown less per game, and their defense starts allowing a touchdown more per game. And so I'm sure injuries play a part, but some of it has to be the guy with that unprecedented contract in that graphic right there, John Gruden. And obviously he's going to be there next year, and he has to figure out what is happening to where the team can beat the Saints and the Chiefs in the first month of the season, and then starting around Thanksgiving, almost lose to the Falcons, almost lose to the Jets, get annihilated by the Colts, and lose to the Chargers. Like, it seems like two different teams, Jenna.
And Coach brings up a good point. Maybe Mariota is the shot in the arm. Who knows? All right, we're going to take a turn, talk some Tom Brady and the Bucs. Can they win this weekend? Hang on to their playoff spot in the NFC. That's next. First things first.
You'll always have that victory lap, though. You'll always.
Tonight it is the Pac-12 championship as Oregon takes on number 13 USC. Coverage begins 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Then tomorrow, 4th-ranked Ohio State looking to secure a spot in the college football playoffs against number 14 Northwestern. It's the Big Ten championship, noon Eastern. Both games available only on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
Pilot State at 21.
Time now for a little draw in a blank. We start in Atlanta. Tom Brady and the Bucs getting ready for the first of 2 games with the Falcons in the next 3 weeks. Brady was excellent last week in the much-needed win over the Vikings. But, Nick, the player you're most excited to watch in Week 15 is blank.
The player I am most excited to watch in Week 15 is the only person in the league that could stop the Kansas City Chiefs from getting back to the Super Bowl. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is single-handedly saving future running back contracts. You know how there was like a narrative in the early 2000s, every golfer owed Tiger Woods a percentage of their earnings because he's driven up the market? Every future running back that gets a contract owes Derrick Henry, because every other running back contract has immediately looked like a disaster, except for this guy, who last year ran for almost 1,600 yards, and this year has almost 1,600 yards with 3 weeks to go. He has 2,000 yards in his last 16 games, including the playoffs. He has 2,800 yards, 2,800 in his last 22 football games. He legitimately could get to 2,000 this season. He is an absolute dynamic force, and Coach, dare I say, reminds you a bit. I know they were the Tennessee Oilers at one point in time. Once upon a time, Houston Oiler, Earl Campbell. He is the best running back in football by a mile, Coach.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mine's a little bit different. Mine's a combo platter. I'm looking to see, and excited to see Colt McCoy and Freddie Kitchens going to Cleveland and dealing with the Browns. And look, sometimes the football gods give you some drama and some intrigue that just happens. And with Jason Garrett down and Freddie Kitchens getting a chance to go back and call plays, I think that's going to be fun to watch. I remember going back with Bill Belichick when we were in New England the first time to Cleveland. We didn't do very well, and the crowd was chanting in the fourth quarter, the whole fourth quarter, about Belichick sucks, and it was brutal. And now they don't have. Fortunately, it's a limited crowd in Cleveland, but also for Colt McCoy, the former starting quarterback. I like Colt a lot. I think he's got a chance. I think they have a chance, and it's going to be fun to see what they do.
Hey, throw the mask on, Coach. Take a little drive to the stadium. Cheer on, Colt McCoy and the fighting Joe Judges. Full mask.
I'm not that excited, Kevin.
Hey, I'm going Yannick versus Gardner. Gardner Minshew gets his starting job back, and he starts putting out quotes. This is why we missed the guy. We put up the quote Katanic. Said, hey, Yannick's going to be out for blood. Don't forget this guy left millions of dollars on the table to leave Jacksonville. That's how much he wanted out. Now he gets a chance to play against his old team. And, Nick, I know you're the one that's picking winners out here. I think letdown game from Baltimore here. Watch out. It's one of Wild's terrible picks right there. Letdown game from Baltimore. I got another terrible pick coming up in about 2 minutes.
Wild is like, Wild says to me off the air, Wild is like, Nick, it's so ridiculous. Somehow you've gotten to be on the Mahomes corner and the LeBron corner and the good picks corner. And then his counterpunch is like, I'm going to pick the Jets and the Jags every week. Like, give yourself a chance.
Maybe
bro.
I will, maybe
like
I won't.
Those two teams have lost a combined 25 consecutive games. I mean, what are you doing?
Speaking of Speaking of Nick's Corner, little Patty Mahomes and Chiefs getting ready for a big game Sunday in New Orleans. Still not sure if Drew Brees will be back for this one. KC, 3-point favorites right now, but Nick, the team that should be on upset alert in Week 15 is blank.
Oh, a wise man once said, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But that's when the Bills were actual contenders, not the frauds they are this year. It's the Bills. Now, I'm no big Broncos fan. Broncos playing better as of late. Bills feeling themselves a little too much. I read your Bills message boards. Y'all are talking about getting the 1 seed. The 1 seed? Y'all talking about, oh, we're going to pass Pittsburgh. Okay. The old covered wagon might get overturned on the Rocky Mountain Trail. Be careful now. If Drew Lock cannot turn the ball over, and that is if the Broncos cannot turn the ball over, I should say, I think they can beat the Buffalo Bills. So I say the Broncos upsetting the Bills, upset of the week.
Was that an Oregon Trail reference?
It was.
Well, Nick, when do you have time to read the Buffalo Bills message board? Like, what's your day look like that you're thinking, I'm going to unwind here with a little Buffalo Bills message board?
There's a lot of memes of me on them.
I can imagine.
They're mean to me. Yeah.
Your pick of the week earlier. I'm going to go the other direction. I like Washington over Seattle, and this may be because I'm such a sappy person and so emotional. But I love the Alex Smith story. I think there's nobody that you want to cheer for more than him, except maybe Ron Rivera coming back from cancer, and that the story in general in Washington is amazing, and they're red hot. I love their defensive line, 5 number ones. I think they're going to be able to keep it going. I think Alex Smith is a huge part of that.
All right, in for a penny, in for a pound. You know what could be the upset of the week? If you want to tell your friends, no one's got this take.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Here we go.
Jets over Rams. Rams a big letdown game.
Every week. Coach, she does this every week.
After beating the Patriots on Thursday, a little rusty. Sean McVay saying the right things. I don't believe that it's getting through to the players. Of course they're going to take this week off. And extra tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. The Jets don't actually want the number 1 pick because they don't want even the possibility, the specter of being spurned by Trevor Lawrence. So they actually want to win and get down to the number 2 pick eventually.
All of
double conspiracy theories are in for a dime, in for a dollar. Jets over Rams.
2 weeks ago, Jenna, he had Adam Gase keeping his job. Now he has the Jets not wanting the number 1 pick. They're the worst takes.
Pot committed.
Jenna, it's the worst. We work with a man with the worst takes.
They're fun to hear. They're just ridiculous.
Because you have the best takes.
Okay.
We're like this. You got the best takes.
You mentioned, Coach, you love Washington. Let's talk about Washington rookie Chase Young. He's been feasting on quarterbacks all season long, and Washington find themselves at the top of the NFC East with 3 to go, starting with the aforementioned Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. But, Nick, the team that most needs a win in Week 15 is blank. Don't say the Jets.
Arizona Cardinals. They got to build on last week. If you didn't watch last week's game, you see the score, you're like, oh, the Cardinals played really well. I'm here to tell you, every team in the league, aside from the Jets and the Jags, would have beaten the Giants last week with the way Daniel Jones and that offense was playing. That was an unwinnable football game for the Giants. The Cardinals now taking on Jalen and the Eagles team that feels like, maybe we have a little bit of life or at least something of a spark. The Cardinals, it would be shocking if they don't make the playoffs, but if they want to have any chance of going into the playoffs and not having it just be a 3.5-hour playoff experience, they need to get back to who they were in late October, early November. So I think the Cardinals up against the all of a sudden rejuvenated, at least for a week, Philadelphia Eagles, they've got to win this game, Coach.
David, I want to congratulate you on cornering the market of Hail Mary takes. You've leaned into it, and I love that about you.
Gonna hit. One's got to hit.
I would go.
Something has to.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins. And last year, the Dolphins, I think they were 18-point dogs going into the second game of the year. The year before, they have the Miami Miracle. This is such a different situation where they're favored. They're fighting for their playoff spot. They've got a chance to end New England's playoffs hopes, and this is a little bit like dealing with the bully. New England's taken everybody's lunch money in that division for so long. Miami's got to show that's not going to happen anymore.
Okay. Belichick 21-5 versus rookie quarterback. So although we are the bully of the high school, other seniors can punch us in the face, not freshmen. That's just not how it's going to work. If Mahomes wants to come in and punch us in the face, that's fine, but no freshmen coming in. Hey, shout out to Master at Work, because off camera right here, I've got like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia type yarns going everywhere. And then this guy goes and puts this up. I'm like, yes, this is what I follow. So I took all the yarn down, just put this up. I hate to say it, and I know there's only a 5% chance. And Nick, give me your take on this, because I've got bad takes, you've got good takes. I think the Patriots have a chance. Oh, it's gone now. I think the Patriots have a chance if we put the graphic back up. I think the Patriots have a chance at doing it. Go ahead.
So if people can't read it from the bottom up, you need Baltimore to lose at least one more time. That's possible.
To the Giants.
It's not. It's a very soft schedule. It's possible. Well, no, they only need to lose one more time because they've already lost once. So they only need to lose one more time.
Yeah.
The Raiders have already done what they need to do. And you need the Dolphins to lose 2 of their last 3, but the Patriots play them one of those times. So you really just need to beat the Dolphins and the Bills to beat them. I think all of those things can happen.
Yeah.
The problem is this. The Patriots aren't going 3-0 down the stretch. The problem is all of that's going to fall for you, right? But the Patriots are not going to handle business. And so that's going to be the problem. So I get it.
I win either way.
Jets.
I take the Jets.
That would be amazing, Jenna. That would be amazing. If all the Patriots need to do is beat the Jets and Wilds finally it comes through for him because they're knocking his team out of the postseason. That would be amazing. That would be unreal.
Way to hedge yourself, Wilds. All right, I got a question for you. Is it even possible at this point to slow down Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense? Is it on the board? All-Pro D-tackle Gerald McCoy stopping by next to break down Sunday's battle in the Bayou. First things first, next. Back here, first things first, joining us now, All-Pro defensive tackle Gerald McCoy. Gerald, good morning. Thanks so much for waking up early with us. I got to tell you, we've had a lot of guests on this show. I don't think anyone has been more excited to join us. The exuberance just that we've had off the air has been great. Yeah. So we love your energy. Yeah, there it is. I love it. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. This is excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely. This is going to be great. Excited to have Gerald.
We are thrilled. We have so much we want to talk to you about. But let's start with Chiefs Saints. You're fired up for this game. We're fired up for this game. Is this a Super Bowl preview? Saints appear unstoppable. Chiefs, on the same hand, appear unstoppable. It'll be Mahomes versus who knows for New Orleans. Sean Payton said, quote, "We'll just see how this week goes for Drew Brees as he continues his recovery from fractured ribs. Who knows? Could be Taysom, could be Jameis, and it might be Drew Brees." Gerald, can this Saints defense hold back Mahomes and the Chiefs offense on Sunday?
I'm sorry to start off laughing, but they can attempt to. They're going to have to do some certain things, though. First things first.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
What they're going to have to do is attempt to double team Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins did a okay job of it. You know, the Bucs tried a couple weeks ago to guard him one-on-one, and we seen what happened. So you're going to have to double team that guy. Secondly, you're going to have to attempt to double team 87. He's been Mahomes' scapegoat. When Mahomes gets in trouble, he looks for 87. Best tight end in the league. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Okay. Third, what they're going to have to do is get back to what they did for 55 out of the last 56 games. Last week, they didn't do a great job of it. But the 55 before that, they stopped the run. The Chiefs don't do a great job running the ball. All the great things they do on offense, running the ball is not one of them. So the Saints have to stop the run. Lastly, do not blitz Patrick Mahomes. He wants you to blitz him. The Saints are excellent at getting to the quarterback with 4. You see what happened last week when the Dolphins got after him a little bit, got him a little rattled, and he kind of depended on all the circus throws and things of that nature. What they have to do is not do what they did last week by losing contain, because he'll kill you. He's not just going to take off running. He's going to kill you. So they have to keep him in the pocket. And believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy, make Mahomes throw from the pocket. Don't let him get on the move. They're going to have to get at him with the front 4.
So this is a really interesting matchup when the Chiefs offense is against the Saints defense. I'm not that, if Breeze isn't going to play, I'm not that entirely interested about how is the Chiefs defense going to slow down the Saints offense, because if they were to play again in the Super Bowl, it's going to be a totally different offense with Taysom versus Drew Brees. But the matchup of when the Chiefs have the ball, that could be what you see in the Super Bowl. And here's my concern. I want to throw it back to you, Gerald. The Chiefs' best tackle, Mitchell Schwartz, has been out a while. He's still not back. There are 2 other tackles, their starting tackles in place of Schwartz, Eric Fisher and Mike Rimmers, have not practiced this week. They could be without their top 3 tackles against this Saints defense. The only way this game ends disastrously for Kansas City, and before I even say this, is if something were to happen to Patrick Mahomes. I feel like the Chiefs offense, when you're talking about, doubling Tyreek, that's to take away the deep shot. I wonder if the Chiefs remove deep shots from their offense and almost run a Pittsburgh Steelers style dink and dunk, 2 seconds or less, get the ball out. And because to try to protect Mahomes if that offensive line's banged up. If that is what the Chiefs' approach is, Gerald, as a defensive player, how do you counter it? As a defensive lineman, how do you counter it if they're trying to get the ball out 1-2 out every time?
Well, for 9 years of my career, I had to play against Drew Brees. Drew Brees is about 4'6", and he doesn't give anybody a chance to get to him. So as a D lineman, when you have a quarterback who's getting the ball out there fast, hands up. You got to get your hands up. They're going to have to disrupt him by the guys up the middle. They're going to have to get a push, because if Mahomes tries to step up and drop quick step, the guys in the middle have to get their hands up. They're the ones that's going to have to get the push to let those guys on the end get home.
Gerald, I want to show you graphics of how much the Chiefs have been down this year. I talked to Nick earlier before the show. I was like, you know what? They remind me of the Warriors, the KD Warriors, when they would just kind of loaf around and all right, let's start playing. They've been down a few games here. And I think with Tyreek Hill's little hamstring thing, he says it isn't a hamstring pull, but at the same time, we saw him grabbing it. Do you think that there's a lack of urgency to this team that could eventually rear its head, or are they just so good this graphic doesn't matter at all?
Well, I believe that they are that good. I mean, last week Mahomes threw 3 picks and still almost threw for 400 yards. I mean, they are that good, but getting into December football and into the playoffs, they can't let this happen, because what happened last year in the playoffs, we had never seen nothing like that before. But I don't believe we'll see anything like that again, where you could just keep getting down in the playoffs and keep fighting your way back. These teams are not going to keep letting them do that. So they have to come out with a sense of urgency and get started early.
So that to me, graphic that you just showed, Wilds, is why I'm conflicted in this game. Because if you were to have expanded that graphic to include the postseason run, you would have seen deficits of 24, 10, and 10, which means my back-of-the-napkin math says in the last 16 games the Chiefs have played, they have trailed by double digits 7 times. But they're 6-1 in those 7 games. They've trailed by double digits. And in fact, and I want to show this graphic, the Chiefs are obviously on an unbelievable run. And as a lifelong Kansas City and Chiefs fan, I want to see how high up this chart they can go. If they were to win the rest of the way and win the Super Bowl this year, they all of a sudden are a game behind Miami for the greatest stretch with only 1 loss in the history of football. And those are some of the greatest teams in the history of football they're already on there with. On the other hand, I think a loss could be good for him because I agree with Gerald 1,000%. Playing just this belief, okay, we're down 10, now we're going to start playing, that can get you beat. And it didn't get them beat last year in the playoff run, but it certainly could have. And this year against Miami, I mean, it felt like they didn't come out ready to play, got down 10-0, then immediately scored 30 straight, but then took their foot off the gas again, and all of a sudden, they had to convert a 4th down to win that game. So, like, I do wonder, Gerald, in your opinion, for the Chiefs, if they're going to be the 1 seed either way, is there such a thing as a loss being good for them, or is that just like a media thing, and as a player, it could never be good for you?
Oh, a loss can be good, but in this sense, I don't think it is. I think they need to go into the playoffs with some momentum. It's December football, and this is when you play your best football. And we've seen numerous times where a team, not that's like Kansas City, but a team can go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, and it carries them all the way. Look at the Tennessee Titans last year. They went into the playoffs with momentum, and it carried them all the way to AFC Championship. You don't want to lose games like this. Because even though they are a championship team, you want to start building your momentum going into the playoffs and let it carry. Because if you don't, you can be up and down going into the playoffs and have a down game in the playoffs, and you only get one of those. You have one of those down games, and that can be it. So you want to start building momentum now, especially against a potential Super Bowl opponent.
Words of wisdom from Gerald McCoy. Gerald, stick around. We want to talk some Tom Brady on the other side. All eyes on the 143-year-old as he gets set for a matchup with the Falcons. Oh, he's only 43. My bad. Still, first things first. Back after this. Big game for Tom Brady this weekend, taking on the Falcons. Bucs currently hold the 6th seed in the NFC, so they'll need to win to hang on to that spot. Good news? Tom Brady's 6-0 lifetime against Atlanta. More good news? They play Atlanta twice in the final 3 weeks. Best news of all? Former Buck Gerald McCoy is back with us. Gerald, you expect Tom Brady and the Bucs offense to start clicking Sunday in Atlanta? They need it to.
They definitely need to. And if any week is the week to do it, going against the Atlanta defense, this is the week. But here's what the Bucs have to stop doing, okay? If you get behind the chains, please stop throwing the ball deep 3 times in a row. Can we stop doing that, please? Please.
Ooh, I like that.
What is the point of going out and getting Shady McCoy, Leonard Fournette, for the first 8-9 weeks having a top 5 running back if you're not going to run the ball? At this point in Tom Brady's career, he needs a lot of different things. He picked Tampa for a reason. One of those reasons is all the weapons. Tom Brady's entire career has been built off play-action pass. He's best when his teams run the ball, when he can use and utilize his running backs. The Bucs get away from the run way too much. There's no reason Tom Brady is 175 years old and he's at one of the top in the league at pass attempts. Why is this? Run the ball. Stop getting away from it. Run the ball. And then Tom Brady can do all these great things that the Bucs fans are expecting him to do. He can utilize all these weapons. Tom Brady shouldn't be throwing the ball 45, 50 times. He shouldn't be doing this. They got to stick to the run, play action, and this would be an easy game for the offense.
So I do wonder, though, if the 2 people most important to the Bucs offense want to play that way. I don't think Bruce Arians wants to play that way. And if Tom Brady wanted to play that way, he could have stayed in his beautiful palatial estate in the New England area, stayed there and ran it back with the Patriots. But I think he wants to chuck it around. And I think Bruce Arians has always wanted to chuck it around. And by the way, some of the moves they've made, the Bucs were doing this, Gerald, throughout from the beginning of the year until now. And their big midseason addition was not adding a blocking tight end. It was adding Antonio Brown. More weapons to throw it to. Like, I think that they are showing you who they want to be. And by the way, I think that'll work against Atlanta. I've watched Taysom Hill carve up Atlanta. So, of course, even 175-year-old, as you put it, Tom Brady can do it. But I think it'll be fool's gold. Because I think, to your point, I don't think this Bucs offense functions against teams with a legitimate pass rush, because they don't run the ball to get the pass rush off balance. Teams tee off on Brady, and Brady, understandably, is not in the business of taking big hits anymore. He's been in the league 21 years. Like, I get it. I'm not blaming him for that, but he is not going to stand in the pocket and take those hits. So I'm of the belief, Gerald, the Bucs could win their final 4 games. They already won last week, obviously, but twice against Atlanta and against Detroit in the middle, and not have solved any of their issues. And go into the playoffs, one of those hot teams riding momentum, but the reason that they got those 5 losses earlier could still all exist, just none of their opponents down the stretch can expose it on them, Gerald.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, because you can get away with a lot of things that are not going to work in the playoffs against a bad defense. So you can go into the playoffs feeling like, oh, yeah, this is it. This is what's going to work. But Tom Brady has 6 rings. He knows what works in the playoffs. He knows what's going to carry them. If he wants to have a home Super Bowl, he knows what's going to work. And if they believe that him throwing the ball 40 times a game is going to get them to the Super Bowl at home, more power to you. But that ain't going to do it. They got to run the ball. And why not work on the things you need to work on against a defense like this? Score early, get some momentum, and then start working on your stuff. These are the types of games that do it. The only problem is it is a division opponent. And the Bucs always have an issue with splitting with Atlanta. They don't need to do that. So they need to go in there, score early, and then start running the ball. Work at it. If they don't, I'm telling you, it's not going to be pretty in the playoffs.
So the splits between their pass attempts and rush attempts have been out of whack all year. But last week against the Vikings, they actually ran the ball more than they passed. And Tom Brady had the longest pass in the NFL. In the last few games, he's been 6 for 11 on deep passes. And there's one other thing, Gerald, that I wanted to ask you about. I think the Falcons might have a Lamar Jackson type performance against Tom Brady. And I don't mean rushing for a lot of yards. I mean taking a bathroom break in the middle of the game because they're scared of watching Tom Brady. Tom Brady, like you said, Jenna, 6-0, greatest comeback of all time, averages 318 pass yards, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So the question is this. I like to see it like Tom Brady doesn't lose to the Falcons. And I know it's a brand new roster. Do you think that's actually a mental edge, or it's like, no, it's just the same. It's the same. People have different uniforms on. It's a whole, everything's been overhauled. That's not a thing.
I don't believe it's a thing. I think Atlanta's going to see the Buccaneers.
It is.
I believe Atlanta's going to see the Buccaneers coming into their place. And just because it's Tom Brady, you respect him for what he's done. But this is a division opponent. He's just the person with the ball in his hand at this point. You know, he had an added advantage with a different coach that was coaching him. So that helps out a lot.
Gerald, it feels to me this year there have been 2 either semi-prominent to prominent critics of Tom Brady nationally. Semi-prominent is your old buddy Nick Wright. And the prominent one is his head coach, Bruce Arians. And while Brady maybe expects it from me, I don't think he necessarily expected it from Bruce Arians. What do you now? I know that Bruce came out this week and gave him flowers, but he has been very, I would call it honest in the media, certainly more honest than Brady's used to with Belichick. Yeah. What do you make of those public comments thus far this year about his quarterback?
A couple things. He did warn him. He said that he was going to treat him like he treated everybody else. Nobody believed it. He stuck to it. And secondly, his style of criticizing his starting quarterback, I don't agree with it when it comes to Tom Brady. You can say we can play better in certain areas, but to call out your quarterback, Tom Brady being that, it just doesn't sit well publicly, and it can cause a lot of distractions that you don't need. And I don't care what Tom Brady says. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. But one thing that I've seen a lot of from Bruce Arians is a lot of this. I haven't seen any of this. And I think that if he would balance that out and say there's some things that I can do better instead of just doing this so much, I think it wouldn't be such a big deal. But it's a whole bunch of this going on.
But, Gerald, just about the criticisms, the guy is literally nicknamed the greatest of all time. If you were like, you know what, Kevin, you've got the greatest hair of all time, and if one person was like, your hair's a little out of place, I'd be like, wrong. I got the greatest hair of all time. I would feel like indestructible. So it's surprising for me to hear you say that it does bother Tom Brady, because I view Brady as having the ultimate confidence. And I feel like he's a big boy. He's 43 years old, that he can handle honesty, like, the ball, like Mike Evans was open, we didn't get the ball to him. That's the way it is. I'm Bruce Arians. I'm a straight shooter.
Yeah, I believe he can handle it, but that doesn't mean this doesn't bother him. He's in a brand new offense in a brand new city, and that he didn't have an off season, and he's trying to balance out who we really are. And I don't care if I am the greatest of all time. There's an adjustment period. Look at, a lot of people consider LeBron as the GOAT, right? Look at what happened his first year in LA. There was an adjustment period. I understand they got a different coach and different things, but there takes time. Look at my favorite player of all time is Aaron Rodgers. Look at the difference in last year and this year once he had a chance to adjust to the system. So when you're taking a guy, it doesn't matter how good you are. It's his first year in this scheme, new players, playing a completely different style of football than he's used to, and you publicly criticizing him every time y'all lose. If he was saying we both can do things better, that's one thing. But he's doing a lot of finger pointing.
Gotcha.
And that's my only thing.
So, 2 quick points. One is, I feel like we could potentially break some news here, which is, Gerald, now you do have...
Don't say it.
Let's call it a pretty obvious history of picking warm weather, Oklahoma to Tampa to Carolina to Dallas. I'm not saying you don't like to be cold, but if you could get over that, I feel like the Packers are always looking for somebody next to Kenny Clark. You just said Aaron Rodgers' favorite player of all time. I'm just saying, Brian Gutekunst, get on the phone. That's just nod your head if you would love to sign with the Packers next year. That's first of all.
I'll say this.
Second of all is this. Yeah, please.
I'll say this.
Yeah, let me hear it.
Go ahead.
No, you go. You say it.
Okay, this that I'm doing right now, I'm not ready for it. I got a lot of football left to play. So, hey, Gerald's ready.
Let's go. Yeah.
He's ready to go. So, somebody pick up the phone.
Somebody pick up the phone. Call Gerald McCoy. There is no question there's a lot of football left in him. And by the way, I know I just promoted you to go to the Packers. I actually think you'd look better next to Chris Jones. You've already worn red jerseys before. Kansas City is not always as cold as Green Bay. And let's be honest, the only thing missing is a Super Bowl ring. You don't want to just get to the Super Bowl like Green Bay could. You want to win it. So the Chiefs probably better. The other point is quickly to Kevin Wildes. The problem with saying I'm the GOAT so the criticism doesn't bother me, I think that only applies once you retire. I think when you're still in it, I think it's like, okay, what I have already accomplished made me the GOAT, but I am still in it. I'm still the man in the arena trying to accomplish more. So while I can't go backwards legacy-wise, I'm trying to go forwards. I'm trying to still say I can do it at this high of a level. So that's why I would understand why it would bother a GOAT who is not playing to that level. That would be my answer there.
Yeah, and just before we break, Jenna, I don't know if we can edit on the fly, but Gerald did drop in that LeBron was the GOAT, and it's gone unmentioned. Nick thought he was just going to be able to say it, and Nick was like, yeah, that's true. I'm not even going to mention it in my response. Of course. So if we're going to edit that out.
I said a lot of people believe
some people,
LeBron
but then you didn't mention it.
Don't misquote me.
I know, I hear it every day. Trust me, bud.
No,
By the way,
Gerald said a lot of people believe LeBron's the GOAT, and they're right.
Okay.
They're correct. They're correct, Jenna.
All right, we gotta go. I don't know if it's the camera angle, but Gerald's hands are enormous. There's a lot of football left in you. There are a lot of teams that could. Yes, look at this. Don't put yours up against his, Nick. Gerald McCoy, thank you. Look at that thing. Thank you so much for being with us. Wonderful insight. Really great to have you here. Please come back and join us again. We got to take a little break. Make a turn back to the NBA now. James Harden at the center of trade talks between Houston and, well, a bunch of teams now. We'll break down where he might be headed next. First things first. We are in Houston back here on First Things First, where it is a day of the week. So we have yet a new James Harden headline. The latest report has the Rockets expanding their search for a trade partner beyond just the Sixers and Nets. Harden had said previously he was hoping to land on one of the Eastern Conference contenders. That's great if Houston will grant that wish, if they trade him at all. Chris Broussard back with us now. Broussard, which team would benefit most from the addition of James Harden?
Here we go. Let's hear it.
I would have said the LA Clippers, Paul George for James Harden, but with Paul George just signing that deal, he can't be traded this year before the trade deadline, so that can't happen. I do like him in Philly a lot. He and Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, Danny Green, Tobias Harris, those guys around him, I think could contend for an Eastern Conference championship. But I'm going to say the Miami Heat. And I know they got a nice little thing going down there, but I would be shocked. I would be gobsmacked. Yes, Nick, I used your word again.
Good word.
If the Miami Heat got to the NBA Finals again. I think that was an aberration. I think it was a manifestation of the bubble and all of that. I think they may be the fifth best team in the East right now. So I go ahead and I try to get James Harden. I get him in a different culture. I don't think he has to have the run of the roost like he did in Houston. And I think if you can keep, obviously you want to keep a Bam Adebayo and a Jimmy Butler, and you can keep some of those guys with him, then I like him in Miami.
So I'm going to go. Listen, I think Miami's a great answer. Tyler Hero, Iggy, Picks, Kendrick Nunn. But I don't know if that would be quite enough. But I think your point about the depth of the top of the East is noteworthy. So you have Milwaukee, Philly, Brooklyn, Miami, Boston, Toronto. That's 6 teams. 2 of those teams ain't making it out of round 1. 4 of them ain't making it out of round 2. That's just how it works. So if you're on that list and you're like, well, you know, what would be a success this year? What are we trying to do? A team that should make a move is Boston. Boston. You can't make the finals with your roster. You can't. And now I know Danny Ainge won't trade Jason Tatum. I know he won't, and you could make the argument he shouldn't. I'm not as high on Tatum as Chris Broussard is, who I think has him currently as the 7th best player in basketball.
7?
We could check that list.
I think he's tier 7
we could see where it is. But you at least have to call an offer. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and a bunch of picks. I'm going to throw 2 of that. Well, I'll just tell you. I'm shocked the Knicks haven't come up. RJ Barrett,
let's go.
Obi Toppin,
let's go.
Do we want to do that to James Harden?
The super
you
valuable.
You really want to do that to James Harden, Nick?
You know what? He'd get him to the playoffs. He'd live in New York. I'm shocked they haven't come up. And the other team that was like a possibility pre-injury, but is not post-Clay injury. Why are the Warriors not talking about this? Why are the Warriors not saying, James Wiseman, the Minnesota pick, Andrew Wiggins, are you interested? Steph and Harden absolutely create a duo if Draymond's got a bounce back year in him that creates real problems for people. So to me, I know there's the list, Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, but those are 3 other teams that I think it makes sense for all of them for what their goals are, Wilds.
So I would love the Warriors, but I would love New York, obviously, even more. And here's why, Broussard. The recent articles about Harden have not been, let's say, flattering. So when I hear things like, hey, send Brandon Ingram, let's send him to the Pelicans. And like, all right, Stan Van and Zion, everybody's new. Like, is James Harden's going to be the lead singer in the band, and Zion is going to play the bass guitar? I don't think that's what they want. And then if he does go to Heat, I think this idea of like the LeBron, came and embraced Heat culture, and Jimmy Butler has got Heat culture like pumping through his heart. That doesn't seem like James Harden's thing. I think if he goes somewhere, he's looking for, Rockets 2.0. Let me get on the court. Let me be number 1 in the league in usage rate. Let me shoot the ball. Let me get to the playoffs and flame out. And that's a success in New York. I hate to say it. That would be a big win. All of New York would be super happy. What happened? We got to the playoffs and flamed out. Wow, big win. You do that in Miami, it's like, what's happening? This is Heat culture. We win championships. Not in Madison Square Garden. We put up a banner, made the playoffs finally. So I love New York.
Look, I do like Nick's Golden State idea. That makes some sense. And remember, Clay coming back next year, Clay, Harden, and Steph, that would be nice. So I like that one. And Wilds, if I'm the Knicks, yes, it makes sense. You're relevant. He probably gets you into the playoffs. He's an all-time great player, still in his prime, which is unusual for the Knicks to get. So I like that. But for Harden, his whole reason for wanting to leave is to win. He would be miserable with the Knicks and probably leave in a couple of years, or maybe demand a trade from there pretty soon. So I don't see that. He just needs to be coached. He doesn't have to be the ball-dominant guy. He's a great passer. He's versatile. He just needs to be coached differently.
Broussard, but it would follow the storyline of Bernard King eventually gives the torch to Carmelo Anthony, who gives the torch to James Harden, of like all-time great scorer of that era. Right? I skip Patrick Ewing for a reason. I'm talking about like true professional scorers of the 80s. You could argue it was Bernard King. It was Melo briefly, and now obviously it's Harden. And they would make the playoffs. Love it. James Harden gets you into the postseason. And so I think the Knicks, they have been keeping their powder dry. I think it's interesting. I think it'd be interesting.
Oh, but it would be a fun story.
Bring Melo back.
Take a break. Talk some Raiders on the other side. What's gone so wrong for John Gruden and this team? Break it down next. First things first. On Sunday, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks taking on Washington, or Eagles battle Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Check local listings for the game in your area, only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. Sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. And the marquee matchup this weekend, Saints and Chiefs. Is this a Super Bowl preview? Do fish swim? Saints appear unstoppable. Chiefs, on the same hand, appear also unstoppable. It'll be Mahomes versus who knows for New Orleans. Sean Payton said, quote, "We'll just see how this week goes for Drew Brees as he continues his recovery." Mike Vick, still with us. Mike, who should Chiefs fans want to see on the field on Sunday? Drew Brees or Taysom Hill?
If I'm the Chiefs fans, I want to see Drew Brees because, ultimately facing Drew Brees right now gets you prepared just in case you got to face him in the Super Bowl if it all comes about. And Drew is going to present you with a lot of different things. At least you get some type of indication of what the offense may look like. But I think the biggest caveat is Drew being on the field, but Taysom Hill spot playing and coming in playing his role. You get a sense of what Sean Payton is going to want to do with Taysom Hill at times in the ball game, because the 3, 4, 5 first downs that he pick up could be a difference maker in the game. It could change the dynamic of the game. You want to see how Sean Payton will use Taysom Hill, at that moment in the biggest game of your life. So, while you want to see Drew, I don't think it makes sense to see Taysom Hill because you won't see him down the road. Drew Brees will be the guy who will be out there orchestrating the offense and the guy that you got to get keys on. Thinking down the road.
Dear Santa, if you want to know what old Christmas, it's for Nick Wright to watch Taysom Hill. Sorry, I ran out. To watch Taysom Hill. Oh, and I'm just hearing that this is a true story. Nick heard your chances that Taysom Hill might have a big game against Chiefs and unplugged his internet right now. He said, you know what? Not going to do it. I can't even address the fact that Taysom Hill might defeat the Chiefs. Maybe they could even lose the bye. If they could lose another one, Steelers. Oh, I would love it. But Mike, I want to show you a graphic.
Good.
The Chiefs remind me a little bit of the KD Warriors, where they're so good, they just sit back and relax and relax and relax. Like, oh, do we have to play now? Then they play. Last week of that game, and the Dolphins threw 3 INTs, and then all of a sudden it's like 4th and 1, and they ran a little route to Tyreek Hill to pick it up. So they seem to win games with ease, but it's almost too easy for them. And I know Nick's take, if he ever comes back, if he's brave enough to come back, is that he's actually rooting for a Chiefs loss kind of here, because it's sort of like a dose of cold water. Do you think the loss could actually be good for the Chiefs?
I don't think a loss is ever good, Wiles. I mean, the most important thing that you can do is compile wins in the win column, because when you win football games, it builds your confidence. And of course, games are going to be up and down. You're going to start slow some games. You're going to start faster than others. But it's never going to be perfect. And that's why this league is so hard and it's so rigorous, because you have to, go into a game and play to your strengths, but at the same time be able to make adjustments and be able to do things on the fly. And while it's not always going to be pretty, you got to stand tall. You got to be steadfast, and you got to keep pushing towards the common goal, and that's having more points than your opposition at the end of the game. So a loss is never good. It's always good to win. If you can rip off, 6 straight at the end of the regular season and carry that momentum into the playoffs, that's just what it is, Wiles.
But if they've got momentum, Mike, from all of last year, I get it that there's no such thing as too much momentum, but it just feels that they've been playing a little more lackadaisical than I wanted to see them. All right, now I'm going to talk about Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill scored a touchdown, and it was very, very quietly reached for his hamstring. And he's not on IR or anything. He's totally fine, but it reminds me of, this is gross, but it will drive home the point. It reminds me of finding like a fingernail in your food. It's like, it's a very small thing when he reached for his hamstring, but it was absolutely very concerning.
But it's there.
Do you think if Tyreek, are you worried at all about Tyreek Hill, since speed is obviously such a big part of his game, that he's not 100%?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the hamstring is probably one of the worst injuries that a speed guy can have, because you rely on getting vertical and getting in and out of breaks consistently throughout a football game. And, when that hammy is bothering you, and even when it's there, even if it's, you're a week removed from it, it always presents itself at some point during the ball game where you just notice it, and then it's in the back of your mind subconsciously. So, I worry about speed guys having hamstring injuries. I dealt with that over the course of my career, 2006, moving forward as I got older.
Mike, what do you think? We had Gerald McCoy on earlier in the show, and one of his keys to winning the game, he said, don't blitz Patrick Mahomes, which for me, as being like a longtime Patriots fan, I knew blitz Tom Brady, put pressure on Tom Brady, our whole game plan falls apart. He said, don't blitz him, because once he rolls out, bad things happen. Said just keep him in the pocket. Do you agree that the best way to defeat the Chiefs is not put a ton of pressure and just rush 4 guys?
Hey, look, I love Gerald McCoy. I got a lot of respect for him, but that's not the way to play Patrick Mahomes. If you're going to play Patrick Mahomes that way, you might as well leave the defensive lineman off the field, because now it becomes 7-on-7. You got your linebackers, and you got your 4 DBs back there playing against Patrick Mahomes. Some of the easiest practices that I've had have been in 7-on-7. And the ability to go out and recognize what the defense is doing, without blitz, without a defensive line in front of me. That's not the way you want to play Patrick Mahomes. Trust me, you want to heat him up, put pressure on him, and try to bring him out there.
Saints and Chiefs coming up this weekend. I'm going to interrupt you, Mike. We got to go. You guys have a fantastic weekend.